Wow, for the first time it's completely quiet. I didn't have to clap and welcome you all. But welcome everyone. Thank you and welcome to Oasis. And today we are here with an amazing panel. Not me, them. And we'll be discussing about the global talent and understanding how the global talent visa works. We can ask your questions to each one of us. All of us have gone through different parts of journey as an investor perspective, founder perspective, law firm perspective. And before that, we'll explain about what Oasis is. How many of you have been here before? Okay, quite 20-30% of the time. Perfect. So people are here for the first time. Oasis is a hub where we connect investors with founders. That's the core essence of it. But what more is that we do run like workshop, making sure founders can understand how to navigate the legal ecosystem, how to navigate the taxing market or accounting ecosystem, or even immigration side. So that's what Oasis is about. And if you have any more questions and want to be part of the community, it's a free community. You can scan the QR code over there, or after the event, you can meet myself. And there's like Luba and David, who's running Blue Lake right behind. And so Oasis is run by Blue Lake, fundamentally. So you can come and meet either one of us and we can talk through. So that's about Oasis. Now let's get into action. I'll just give a brief intro about each one of us. Then I'll hand it over to Alex, who will be moderating the session. So Alex is from Fragomen, immigration law firm, anything and everything, visa and immigration, globally #1. You can ask all the tough questions. Another Alex from Verb Venture, investor. You can ask for money and also questions about how did he navigate his ecosystem as a founder, what does he look into as a candidate for the visa, and anything regarding investment and visa point of view. And Kim is also from Fragomen. She has worked with number of candidates, navigating them through different profiles, different structures, and how they got the visa. So that's the brief. And about myself, I'm with Oasis and Blue Lake, former founder, founded 3 firms, had an exit. So, and I moved to London as a founder. So my profile was a founder profile. So don't ask me tough questions. Thank you. Over to Alex.
Thanks. Good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for coming. It's a pleasure to be here, and thank you for inviting us along. So we've got a fantastic panel today. I think you're going to get a really diverse range of views and experiences from people who've been through the process, and then from mine and Kimberley's side, obviously from the legal side, from the advisory side of things. So just to briefly introduce things before I jump into the panel discussion. As immigration lawyers, we understand just how important but also stressful the visa process is. And if you're founding a business, establishing a business, you need that immigration security. It's so important for you, for your business, if you're attracting investment. You need to know what your strategy is, and that you're on a secure path that you understand from an immigration perspective. And here in the UK, we actually have quite a good immigration system. That might be a controversial thing to say, and I don't want to compare with other jurisdictions. But in general, the speed of processing times, and you'll always get cases that don't go quite right, but generally it's pretty quick if you compare it with the US, for example. And we have quite clear immigration categories as well, with reasonably clear requirements. So it's a good place, if a little expensive, from an immigration perspective. So what we wanted to talk to you today about is the global talent visa specifically. And I think the title of the panel is apt. We want to try and demystify it because when we're there's lots of kind of misinformation potentially and confusion out there around the global talent visa route. And often when we talk with clients, common things that we hear would be, I wish that I'd applied earlier, but I was nervous of applying. I didn't know how best to address this gap in my work history, or I didn't know how best to present this particular piece of evidence. So there's a lot of reticence sometimes to apply. And if you look at Tech Nation's guide, and they're the endorsing body for the visa, it's grown. So their guidance has expanded over the years, and it can look a little bit daunting at first glance. But it's not necessarily so. So what we wanted to do was give you our experiences from both sides of the fence of the visa, um, look at some kind of examples and case studies which might give you ideas for your own situation or that of your business. Look at what's worked and maybe what hasn't, so that hopefully the immigration side of things isn't a blocker to what you're trying to do with your business. So I'm going to jump into the panel discussion now. We've got some questions that you guys had sent before that we can look at the end, and then also I think we'll open it up to a discussion. We don't want it to be too formal. But if I could start with Kimberley, could you just set the scene for us in terms of explaining what the Global Talent Visa is, and maybe what matters most in terms of a successful application?
Sure, thank you. So you all know that there is this visa called the Global Talent Visa. We're going to talk, this panel will talk a lot more about the Tech Nation route, so the digital technology side of things. And what this visa is, it's a work visa that allows the most talented individuals in their field to come and work in the UK. This is a visa that gives a lot of flexibility. You can work for multiple ventures, one or more at any single point in time. It's something that a sponsored visa, skilled worker visa, would just not allow you to do with the level of flexibility that it has. It's a visa that's very attractive for that reason, and also for the reason that you can settle in the UK on a fast track basis. So on the route, you can settle in the UK after 5 or 3 years qualifying residence. And that's usually one of the big pulls into the route, why people want to switch from skilled worker to global talent. That's sort of the global talent visa. What matters in a founder's application, what makes it strong? It's really just two things from our experience. The first is tangible impact. So we want to be thinking less about just theoretical ideas and more things that have results. So thinking about market traction for any products that you've grown. We're thinking about actual technological innovations. We're thinking about IP protection, patents, actual technology differentiation between what's in the market disruption. So that's one aspect of a strong application. Aside from that, one very important thing is also external validation. So whatever that you're trying to prove, it's always better when someone else says it. So it can be clients, it can be investors, it can be media, but those would be the main components that make up a strong application. The takeaway point for anyone looking to apply for a global talent visa is that it's not just a strong application is not just one claim. I'm a great candidate. It's putting a bundle together. It's like a puzzle. Everything is like little pieces that you put together. Letters of recommendations, supporting evidence, your track record. It all makes up this big coherent picture. So there's a lot of layers involved, and it's important to think of it that way. Yeah, that answers the questions.
Thank you. Yeah, I think it's exactly right. And the big thing for us, and when we're advising clients, is the flexibility that the Global Talent Visa gives you. So you're free to work for whoever you want. You're not tied to a specific company. You can set up your business. You can set up multiple businesses on the route. So there's full flexibility, and there's also no immediate timeline around it. So you're not expected to have a business set up within 3 months, for example, of getting the visa. Yes.
I have a question regarding that. Is it sector-driven? Talent, is it all about talent, or say technology?
Yeah.
That they want just techies to do, or others? Or is it, that's, I think, I'm going to guess, high priority probably on talent techies. In other words, programmers, developers, and so forth, and technology. Is it geared more towards that, or is it geared for non-techies?
Not necessarily, and it will lead me on to my next question for the panel, but it's the digital technology sector, but it is broad within that. So it is not just a sort of niche group of tech-focused applicants who are on the software side, whatever it might be, who can apply. people with a track record in investment in digital technology can qualify. There's a specific business stream. So people who work within digital technology, but maybe are on the business development, revenue driving side of things, can also qualify, provided that they work within the digital technology sector. So it's broad, but you've got to make sure that you're submitting the right evidence to hit Technation's criteria, depending on your background.
Technation is the only endorser or sponsor?
The only sponsor for digital technology, yes. Yeah. There are other categories.
For global talent visa, Technation is the same way?
For global, yeah. So within the global talent visa, there are subcategories: digital technology, arts and culture, humanities, etc. But there are different endorsing bodies if you're applying within those other sectors. But for digital technology, Technation is the one endorsing body. So, Alex, perhaps I could come to you then. So, just given your background, what was your own global talent visa journey like? Was it tricky, anything challenging, or was it perhaps surprisingly smooth?
No, it was actually, first of all, it's great to see everyone today. So, and yes, I completely agree with you, Alex. Sometimes, the Technation guide may be flawed in a way that people would not think that you are a talent which can receive a visa, as a matter of fact. It's a matter of a perspective on how you look on yourself and your achievements, which you have, right? Because my experience shows that not only techs and not only techie people can get the visa, because I was just launching the corporate venture arm of some brokerage firm here in the UK, and so when we were choosing geography where we will settle the business and so where we will actually start to do the firm, we stopped in the UK because we had an infrastructure here. Right, but when we started to look into the immigration processes, for me, that became evident that so there's so many ways to sort of transfer me to the UK, and we've decided, and I personally decided on back then it was exceptional talent route. It was not the global talent, and so back then the overall process was even more like sort of under the shade. It was not obvious what you need to do, what evidences you need to sort of provide, and etc. And so fortunate enough to work with you guys, so to guide me through the process. And for me, the process was quite smooth, I would say, because I was explained in the best way possible as to what I need to provide, what I need to give to the endorsing body, what my strengths are, practically, like why am I a talent, and so practically it was after we put together the application, I saw it from the angle which I needed to see it in the very first instance, right? So because I couldn't think of, hey, I invested in a few companies, exited, so that could be counted as a exceptional talent, right? So it probably would be so if you work in an investment, right? But not as such. And I thought that this visa is probably for the people like of, I don't know, Mark Zuckerberg or people like that, right? So much like of O1 visa in the US. But truth is, it is not. It is more sort of for us who did some achievement, some good stuff in their career, and looking to switch to a very flexible visa. And yeah, so for me it was almost flawless, I would say. Plus the overall endorsing process, Technation was swift, and with the replies, and I didn't get any commentary as such. So and then after my process, so I was so dragged into the process, so I became ambassador for this visa, but we can talk about it later down the line. But yeah, so just answer your question, it was so good. Not only because you guys did an amazing job, but like because the overall, I would say, if you read this guide which Technation put in front of you, like with a pinch of proud in yourself, right? So to look into yourself at a different angle, then it became sort of a bit more obvious of how to put this application and how to make it easier for you to apply.
Thanks, Alex. Great, that's really great insights. And so, Akhil, I wanted to come to you because I know you've got a really interesting story as well. What made you apply for this particular visa? Why did you choose it? And were there any parts of the process that sort of stuck out to you?
Yeah, I think it's similar stories what you kind of mentioned, but for me, I got into Antler, the venture builder, and I was completely new. I haven't been to Europe before, not to UK. Had zero network, no businesses in UK, but previously had run businesses, and so Antler. I got into Antler. The folks at Antler told that there are different routes, and Antler was a partner for Technician, and they were like, they can fast track the application. They won't guarantee the application, and that's when I realized about, okay, there is this interesting visa where you can run a company or you can work if company doesn't work out. So it's a super flexible visa. So that was the route. I would say that's how I got to know the visa existed. But the processes was little more complicated initially for me because I had no idea about it, and I was based in India back then. So on the Technician website, you had Fragomen as a partner. So I got on a call with Fragomen, but the timeline which I wanted to come to the UK was like in 2 months I have to come to UK. So I got my Antler accept in August and I have to be by October. So and the traditional route does take a lot of time. So hence I was like, how do I go about with it? The initial call did help me to understand these are the stuff, but it might take time to get the robust and 100% guaranteed to get the application. You have to spend some time, and I couldn't afford so much time. So hence, I spoke to the alumni within the portal, like ambassadors on the website, and understood what did they do, and let me, like being a founder, literally took a gamble and seeing that if it works out, it works out. It worked out. So that would be that's how it was.
Yeah, I think that's it. It does take, it can take time to put together a strong application. And as Alex said, Technation don't often come back and ask questions when they're looking at your application. They will assess it based on what you've submitted. And if you aren't endorsed, you can reapply or you can challenge the decision, but you can't submit new evidence when you challenge the decision, only if you do a new application. So it's great to speak to people and
You mean they, Technation?
Sorry.
You say they,
Sorry,
you say they, you mean Technation.
Yeah. So yeah, but it's great to speak to alumni, speak to people who've applied before, get their experiences, and obviously you have to make sure that you're then applying it to your situation, because what works for one person will not necessarily work for another, because it really does depend on your profile and what evidence you've got to support your application. Right, so I wanted to change the approach a little bit now and come to Kimberley to talk about the UK immigration's the UK government's immigration white paper. So if you may be aware that in May, the UK government released a white paper on immigration. So if you don't know what a white paper is, it's the government's strategy basically on what they intend to do in a particular area. So here they are talking about what they plan to do with the UK's immigration system, with particular routes, what changes they might look to make. It's not law yet, so it's just policy. And what happens is it then becomes law. Some of the policy may become law, some of it may not. Some of it may be implemented, but in a slightly different way than what's suggested in the white paper. But there were some big changes suggested. So Kimberley, what changes do you anticipate in the future, in particular for the global talent visa route, and how might those affect founders?
Sure. So it's a little bit positive on the global talent and innovator side, where the government has said we want to supercharge favorable sectors. So on the global talent side, they have said that they're going to try and make it easier and simpler for people seen as top leading talent, scientists, design talent, all to get the global talent visa. What does that mean? We don't really know for now, but it does sound like it's positive. It's going to be easier. On the innovator founder side, just because we know there are a lot of founders in this crowd as well, the government has said that they're going to try and make it easier for students, postgraduate students, to start businesses in the UK too. Two main plus points. But more generically, something less positive is how they're going to change the settlement framework. So right now, on the global talent route, you can settle in the UK after 3 or 5 years of residence. The government's going to flip that now and start off with a 10-year qualifying period based on a contribution framework. So either you have 10 years, or if you make sufficient contributions to the UK, then that the 10-year target will go down. So that's how they've described it, but we don't know anything more than that. So really the bottom line here is that if you are eligible now, really you should be applied now. We don't want to wait until the changes come into effect. When they do, we don't know how good, how restrictive they're going to be. So that's pretty much the takeaway, and sort of watch this space. We can continue to see if there are any more updates coming up.
Thanks. And Kimberley, do you think, and nobody has a crystal ball, obviously, but if we're looking at the contribution kind of idea of or model for settlement, do you think that might lend itself, in theory, well to people involved in business, to founders, given the potential contributions they might make?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the way that the global talent route is structured, a lot of it is emphasizing on what you can contribute to the UK economy. So by that framework alone, it does seem like global talent applicants would probably satisfy that contribution framework test. But again, it's all speculation at this point. Potentially good for us, but we don't know, and let's be cautious. I think that's the main takeaway.
No, it's fine.
Will any of this possibly be applied retroactively for people who already have that 10-year rule?
It's a good question. The honest answer is right now we don't know for sure, because the white paper has not specifically said that. So in the past, normally any rule changes would only affect people who enter the route after that change comes into force, right? And you can understand why that's the case for fairness reasons. But the UK government have not specifically said that yet. But equally, we haven't had the law released, so we don't know the detail. But it is at least possible that they might look to apply it to people who are already on the path. In the past, there have been legal challenges where they've sought to do that. So it's up in the air, but I think where you are able to, it's sensible to apply when you qualify. It's sensible to apply as soon as possible where you qualify, to avoid that uncertainty. But what we know is the government are going to release another statement of changes. So that's the draft laws in the autumn, they've said. So we may know more then. So far, the changes they've introduced have not been around, into law have not been around settlement yet.
And do we know what the timeline that is looking like for it actually going to affect other instruments?
We don't yet, right?
It's hard to say. I mean, this month alone, last week they released a statement of changes with a date of it taking into effect on the 22nd of July. So that's 3 weeks notice. So it's hard to say. There was, I think 2-3 years ago, they released a statement of changes for it taking effect the same day. So it's unpredictable, is what we'll say.
But they haven't yet defined what Kimberley mentioned about the 10-year route to settlement and what the contribution-based model, that's not yet been defined. So I think we're going to need to see that. That's going to need to be in place first before they can actually make the changes. Do you have a question? The same question? Yeah. Great. So I wanted to come to a couple of reflections now from the panel, and then we've got some questions, but also I think you guys will have some questions that you want to ask. So Akhil, if I could come to you, looking at your global talent visa journey, what do you wish you'd known earlier? And is there anything that founders should be aware of if they're feeling nervous. We talked about it at the start, nervous or a bit intimidated in terms of applying.
Yeah, I think I'll echo on Alex's answer, where once you read the visa guide, you feel like it's definitely not me. But personally, what kind of helped was that if you keep reading it 3-4 times, then you feel like, oh, maybe I can fit in over here. Because the first time you read it, it's heartbreak. Like it's so Mark Zuckerberg's of the world, or you have to find cure for cancer, only then you'll get this visa kind of point of view. But that was my insight. I wish somebody had told that, because for me, the first time I read it, I had no idea, and I kept rereading it. But one framework which kind of helped is that mind mapping. So the whole idea of the is to see that what you have done in the past and what are you doing and how is it aligned with your future. So that approach kind of helped me to see that, okay, this is what I've done in the past. Does this align with any of the criteria from the guide and what I've done and what's in the future? So, but I wish I had somebody to help me through the process in the time, but had to figure it out, and it was not nice. It was painful because you don't know how the result is. There's no moral, emotional support, or even strategic support from someone. So I wish back in the days I knew these things existed. Yeah.
And Alex, with your background, you've gone through the process, but now with your work that you do backing early stage founders, do you have any hints or tips for how to navigate the global talent visa process or the immigration process, and also be running your business?
Yeah, I mean, that's the hard bit, really. Well, you know what? So because I was, as I said, fortunate to work with you guys, right? So I wanted to give back to the society, and so the ambassador program was and is a quite good sort of source of information. But if you have a valuable budget for this sort of step in your life, I would highly advise to work with, Fragomen or like firms, because what they do is that they just cut down the time spent which you have, so allocated for this, probably threefold, and allow you to, pass through the application really quick. But so if you don't have it, right, so then obviously the best source of information, at least, from what I saw, is indeed ambassadors. Because when I was an ambassador, it was really important for me to help all the founders who were, contacting me with this understanding of what the process is, what the potential loopholes of the process, whether to push, whether how to look at the application. And honestly, so I saw so many talented people just underestimate themselves, right? So I saw one guy who were involved in creation of a Tesla computer vision. So as a matter of fact, he's a data scientist, and he was like, "Nah, I'm not gonna make it, and I'm not gonna be a talent for this visa." I was like, "No, you absolutely sure will." Right. So long story short, he got the visa, and he got the entire team, so covered with this visa, because he was a chief scientist, and then it was like some other scientific stuff like behind him. So, but then, so I would say that that is the majority. So like community around the global talent visa is the main asset of this visa. And it's actually heartbreaking to see how government right now decided to treat this, so because it's just, yeah, probably you're right that, so the overall sort of process and impact to the economy will change the narrative for this. But overall, this overall statement was not clear, and it's breaking my heart that, so that actually happening right now. But I hope we'll still be able to continue on this route, and we'll still be able to sort of persevere through these challenges as well. Because as a matter of fact, this visa is really great, and I think when we invest in overseas founders, which we occasionally do, and they want to come back to the UK, we always advise them to take on this visa, not the innovator, not the skilled worker, for sure. Because it gives them a flexibility, because the jobs which the founder do, obviously, They may be a director, they may not be a director, depending on the case, right? Depending on the legal structure of the businesses. They may want to live in the UK because it's convenient in terms of the coverage of the business, but the business and HQ may be elsewhere, right? So Europe or US or whatever. And this visa, it gives them an ability to live and work in the UK while contributing massively in the UK economy by hiring people, by doing, by just being here, right? And yeah, so I think our advice would be just go, if you have budget, go for a legal firm. If you don't, just go for ambassadors and the community which is around the visa, because those are the two sort of main leverage which you have, so in order to receive and apply for the visa.
It's a really good point. I think having that objective view from somebody else, whether it is a lawyer or somebody from the ambassador network, looking at what you've done and saying, actually, this is amazing, or this is brilliant evidence, is so valuable, especially because it's a bit of an alien concept of having to prove yourself and be very, you have to be very confident about what you've achieved. And for some people, that's not necessarily an easy thing to do. So getting that external view is so valuable. Yeah, and just on the government changes, I agree. It would be great if they had cleared it up earlier. And we don't know for sure what's going to happen. But what we do know is that this government and previous government are they want to support the global talent route, and they want to attract global talent to the UK, and they have said so in this recent white paper. So I think that gives us some hope that the changes won't be, or will at least won't cause too much discomfort. But of course, yeah, we'll wait and see. And once we have the detail, we're going to be putting out communications, on the day that we get it out to the network, and I'm sure we can share it with you guys as well to spread. Yeah, great. So we've still got plenty of time left, so I have some questions that have been sent in, but first I wanted to see if anybody has any questions for the panel. Yeah.
I wanted to ask, you mentioned the innovator founder visa briefly, and I wanted to ask if you could elaborate on the differences between the two in terms of flexibility in general, and why one or the other.
You know what? Let me advise you. Do you want to talk about this now? Because she went through hell for the innovator visa. So.
Not recommended. Been waiting for 6 months now. No, I was on a startup visa, which is the previous. So I'm Natalia. I'm the founder of a startup that is PC based, and I am now in a limbo waiting for the home office and Alex and the Oasis team has been helping me out. But so the business innovator is when you already have a business or you want to establish a business in the UK. The process is kind of similar in the sense that you need to have an endorsement first, and then you can apply for the visa. The problem is the process has become extremely complex. So my application was 220 pages, and it took about 2 months to take it on. And I applied in January, and now it's July, and I still don't have a decision. And it's been one of the most nightmarish thing I've ever done.
So good for you. I bring the visa.
Yes, because it was the natural process. I was on a startup, so the following one was a business innovation. My visa application was put through in March, and this July I have a business and I have investment. I have sales, and they haven't gotten it yet. So the process is not straightforward. It's more expensive. So I would love to be able to vouch for the visa, but absolutely not. Don't do it, because it's becoming more and more complex. And the problem is the endorsement is done in 2 steps. So the first step is done by third-party organization that should decide on your business case. So they should take a decision which is business related, deciding if your business is innovative, scalable, profitable. The problem is the home office doesn't trust the parties. So what they're going to do is that they're going to go through all your application again without trusting the endorsement. And this has been seen over and over by many founders.
Actually, sorry, can I just interrupt? Apologies. My name's Scott Paulson. I'm from Investors. So we are the UK for the Innovative Visas 3 endorsers. I'm sorry to hear about your case actually. So who was your endorser?
UK investment.
UK's. I mean, we have many cases that should have been gone through very straightforward. I'm sorry to hear you've had a bad experience.
I got many on
Well,
we've
I mean, as one of the endorsing bodies, I'm not here to talk about
So
it.
what's the
I'm here
endorsing body?
Investors. We're one of the three home office contractor endorsing bodies. We've processed about 2,000 applications. We've endorsed about 600 applicants. Many of very straightforward. We've clearly got to be innovative, viable, and scalable. Clearly, it's fees where you have to come and work in the UK on your starter. I don't want to.
No, but also what I think is unfair.
I have to stand up for. You're saying that all innovative visas. I wouldn't recommend it, but we've got many applicants.
What I want to say on this is that now the endorsing bodies are four, and even to decide which endorsing body you should go is a job in itself. Because as a founder, this shouldn't be your job to be able to decide what's your endorsing body. I mean, I should be working on business, right? So I think it's quite unfair to expect a founder to be able to make a decision on an endorsing body rather than another.
Well, it might be better to have a choice rather than just pick technicians for one. So I don't know. I mean, that's the home office.
But that's quite straightforward at least. That's what I'm saying. Because as a founder, I think the problem is the lack of information to understand what's the best route. I mean, of course, if I could go back in time, now I knew, and maybe I would have gone, for a different endorsing body. But how am I expected to have this kind of information that I'm not here before? Like, it shouldn't be my business to spend 2 months and I've been talking to Alex
I would recommend talking to people like Alex and Kimberley, the immigration experts. They're the ones.
Yeah, I think that's the as best you can. It's having those conversations in advance of going down the route where you can.
I even spoke with you in November.
Yeah, of course.
And the legal assistance was 8K. Like, I mean, my visa cost is 7K. Plus the legal assistance if I want, it was 9K. I mean, how am I supposed to spend 16K for a visa?
Yeah, it's difficult, of course, and yeah, I mean, you've got to
Yeah, I would completely agree with her. Considering the costs, the innovative founder visa, and the scrutiny we are going through, exactly my situation is exactly the same. I was on the startup visa before, and I just switched to innovative founder visa in April, and I'm still waiting. And I've gone through the whole endorsement process, and then it's the same thing. So if I would go back on time, I would reconsider global talent visa, because that's what I'm recommending my co-founder as well. The reason why we are here today, I've been through this process. I don't want you to go through what I've been through. So you just probably spend some time, take some time, sit with lawyers or just have a team and be in global talent visa if you can. Because I completely agree with her.
I don't want to. Sorry, I didn't want to sound, but to me, like, for example, I had just to tell you why I'm so angry with it. I had a family emergency in my own country. I couldn't leave the country because you cannot leave while you're waiting.
Well, I think
for
the
a
issue is,
decision.
I do apologize. The issue isn't people like ourselves, the endorsers. That's unfortunately it's just the home office UKVI, which is just it can be a complete nightmare. I mean, I've heard many stories like this about many visas, not just innovative. It sounds like it's been caught up in the process, but it isn't to do with the innovative aspect.
My problem is, even now I wanted to switch to a different endorsing body. Until they give a decision, you are stuck in a limbo. So it's like, can you afford to be stuck in a limbo? That's the problem as a business owner. Because if I was not a business owner, I would go on holiday.
Exactly. Right? Should we manage the visa or business?
I have a couple of questions.
Go ahead.
The first one is there an age group which is best suited for this, or any age? Is that an open one? Yeah. So that's the first one. The second one is, I'm not sure if you're aware of it. It's 3 to 5 is short-term resident, and then 10 is long-term resident, and both have IHT impact, so inheritance tax impact. So let's say you're a founder, you've got £1 million worth of assets somewhere in India, say for instance, and you've crossed the 5-year mark. On the 6th year you die. The UK government gets 40% of your assets in India,
And if it's a 10-year one, there is no way back. Even if you say, oh, I want to die in India, in some disease, you won't get away with assets that you started out with.
Yeah. So, Kimberley, do you want to maybe take the first part of that question? I'm going to have to duck out the second part because we're immigration advisors, unfortunately, so I can't cover the tax piece.
Yeah, so I mean, there is no hard and fast rule when it comes to age. It's really just the criteria at hand. So, do you meet the mandatory and optional criteria for the route? You would normally expect, let's say, if you're a talent applicant, you needed to have built a track record. So, I would say it's an overgeneralization, but if you're really young, you probably wouldn't have had enough time to build that track record for the visa. There are also some questions in there in the global talent route. So what are you going to do? What are your plans for the UK? So if you leave it too late, you're in your 70s, then the question would be, aren't you retiring? So what are you planning to contribute to the UK economy? So I think ultimately it's a question of balance. There is no black and white answer. You can be someone who is maybe in your 70s but still wants to do something. So again, it's very fact dependent on your situation.
Yep.
I have a question about settlement. So assuming you're on whether it's a 3-year or a 5-year route, I just want to understand what it is that they use to measure, because I know you have to show that you've been active. So if you're someone who was working with companies or starting your own thing, there's also like periods of time that you go through where you're in R&D or like you're trying to figure out how to set things up, applying for grants, all of that stuff. So there are gaps in your income where you're literally like just not making any money because you need money. So what happens with how they measure that, and like how it's just, it feels a bit vague, like how that is.
Of course. So when you're coming to apply for settlement under this route, or if you're extending the visa, the rule is that you need to show you've earned money in the UK in your specialist sector. So there's no requirement that you've been continuously earning money. And we've had lots of cases where our clients have had periods where they have not been working, they've been in the R&D phase, or they've been moving into a new venture. And that's fine, provided you can show that you have earned money in the digital technology sector. So it needs to be obviously tech focused. But yeah, we've had clients who've been employed, set up their own business, have received money from sort of consulting. So there's a lot of flexibility there, and I think the rules have been written in that way deliberately.
That still feels vague. I'm sorry.
And just I'll add a bit more context. So we've had a client, well, more than one. They're on the skilled worker visa for say 3 years, switch onto the global talent route, get 1 month of pay slips, and they apply for settlement. And that was enough for them. So there is no minimum requirement. The rules don't say that there's a minimum bar. Obviously, as lawyers, we want to be cautious. We interpret you have to be in genuine employment. So maybe we want to make sure everything looks okay. But no, there is no minimum bar.
Actually, I'll add to this, right? So I just recently have my really close friend who've been on the talent route. So he was 2 years employed in the digital tech business, but he was getting paid as a consultancy because the business was overseas. So that's not qualified, right? So then on the third year, he was employed by tech sort of company, which is quite big, right? So that's qualified, and so now he applied for his settlement. So and that's apparently works for him. The main thing is that, as far as I understand the rules, and correct me, right? So like the main thing is that if you state that you are in say development business, right? So you need to receive the payslip from development, as so like $1 from that would be enough, right? So I'm exaggerating, but that then so you get a sense of it, right? So like if you get the one payslip of that, then it's enough.
If it take a really simple example of the 3-year period where somebody did not have any earnings in the first year and then had a year of employment, let's say, with a digital technology company, and they've got pay slips and bank statements, and then let's say in the last 6 months before they apply, they haven't been earning. That, in our view, would still qualify because they could show they've earned money in the digital technology sector. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah. I just wanted to clarify the difference between the two levels of the global talent visa.
Yeah.
So there's the, I think, is it the exceptional talent, and then there's the promise. So
yeah,
I think that's probably relevant for the audience.
Yeah, of course. Kimberley, do you want to cover that?
Of course. So the exceptional talent route, which is the favorable 3-year route, that's applicable for primarily for individuals who already have built a track record in the industry. So TechNation's visa guide says at least 5 years of experience in your chosen area in tech. Exceptional promise, on the other hand, is for people who are seen as young and emerging talent in the field. So less than 5 years experience, just graduated, or maybe people who are making a career change from a non-tech sort of capacity to a tech capacity and have not yet had 5 years of track record in the industry. That would sort of be the line drawn between talent and promise.
But isn't there more on the kind of exception that there's almost a bit of global front that you sort of, I mean, that's my understanding of it, but just more that you're actually not just that you've actually got a track record globally on the exceptional talent. The other ones is it's the promise, but
not necessarily. It can be national recognition, so strong recognition at national level. It doesn't have to be in multiple countries. It would be favorable, of course, to your profile if you've had multiple countries recognizing sort of your achievements, but we've had clients who have had successes solely in one country alone. So that was fine.
And the same thing applies for promise and talent in terms of proof for settlement that you would have.
Correct. Yeah, exactly the same rules.
Just for an extension for the same question. So when it comes to the exceptional talent and exceptional promise, how can they measure or how they are gauging the experience which we had? Like for example, if we have an experience previously back in some other country and when you move to the UK, so they gauge the UK experience as a founder or as a tech or anything, or like how it works.
So you mean if you're making the application for the first time, but you're moving to the UK first?
For example, like I worked back in my country for 6 years in renowned industry in the tech. When I moved here, when I started working as a co-founder and a CTO in the tech, like it's been 2 years. So when it comes to the application, so now if I'm applying for the first time, do they consider my previous experience which I was back in the industry from 6 years and all, or they consider me as like you are young, you have only 2 years experience in the UK? How
it would be a full picture, holistic assessment. As part of the application, you'd be asked to provide your CV detailing your history and your background, and they'll basically look at everything as a in a big picture view.
Yeah, so all the founders which I saw while being an ambassador, they had like only overseas experience, like only. The only one who, potentially had some is this close friend I told you about just now. So like he had the local experience in big tech, but that's pretty much it. So yeah, I would definitely go for the overall. It's just a translation, and this is hard, So this certification of the translation. So that was quite fun with you guys. So yeah.
I mean, I'm an example. I only had overseas experience. So
Any other questions?
Yeah, so I'm a founder, and our company is now registered in the UK. We have employees who are based in the UK working currently part-time, and they have a full-time job on the student visa. They want to join full-time and maybe think about switching to global talent visa. I'm just wondering, like, what's the process look like, and like how they should handle with their current visa.
Yeah. Kimberley, do you want to? That's like the strategy, I guess, of the timelines of when to switch from a skilled worker to a global talent. Is that right? Yeah.
Right. So okay. So if they're on a skilled worker visa thinking to switch to global talent, again, it's a two-stage process. They first need to get endorsement, and the endorsement application is not an immigration application. Once they do, they file stage 2 visa application, and once they switch, that's when they'll have the right to work freely for any employer, and they'll have the right to work for your company if that's the plan. So did you have any specific questions about what exactly were you trying to ask as well? I couldn't quite make that out from your.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, like, in terms of like timeline process wise, like, do they need to start applying now while they still have their skilled work visa, or?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on like you say timeline. So when is the date you want them to start working for you? Then we look backwards there based and look at the processing time frame. So stage 2, if it's an in-country application, can be processed in 8 weeks under standard service, 5 working days under priority service. Before that, the endorsement application can take anywhere up to 8 weeks. So if it's something you want to be done soon, then yeah, it's better for them to get on with it now than later.
So they can apply while they're still on their skilled work visa.
Yes, they can
They
apply.
need to do it when their visa's still valid, obviously. So it's worth checking when their visa is going to expire, and then make sure that there's enough time to go through both stages of the process to be able to apply from within the UK.
Going back to the experience requirement, does the company that you work for, does it have to be a tech company specifically, or can it be? Could you have worked in the tech part of that company, but the company itself is not?
Yeah, I'll take that. So technically speaking, when it comes to experience, it's a little bit more vague, but it also ties into how you want to meet the mandatory and optional criteria. So for example, the optional criteria, the definition is very precise. If it's optional 1, you have to be senior executive, founder or employee of a product-led digital technology company. And that's where what you're saying sort of might fall down. So product-led digital technology company means a company that uses a primary digital infrastructure as its primary revenue source. So if you're in a company that doesn't have a technology product as its main product, then Technation might take issue with that, and they might not think that you fulfill that definition. The same wording is inbuilt into optional criteria 3, impact as well. You need to be employee of a product-led digital technology company. So the short answer is that in principle you might fit, but if you want to rely on any experiences in those companies, then it might become a challenge.
I think we've probably got time for one more question. I want you guys to have some time at the end as well to have a chat between yourselves. Yeah, go ahead.
And for tech, I know you said that it doesn't have to be like super tech, but for example, tech policy, does it fall under these? And for exceptional promise and talent, how is it different, the kind of evidence you have to provide, like how impressive it has to be?
Yeah. So exceptional promise is the difference between the two is that exceptional talent, you need to have been recognized as a leader within the sector. Promise is that you have the potential to be a leader. And then when you're hitting the other criteria with exceptional talent, you've got to show a proven track record of hitting whichever criteria you choose. So that's 2 or more examples. Exceptional promise, you just need 1. So it's, I guess, less so about the nature of the evidence, but more that you might only have a limited example with exceptional promise, which is okay, whereas exceptional talent, they expect to see years of that sort of evidence. So yeah, tech policy, I mean, I guess we could have a chat about what exactly it is that you're doing. Potentially it could work, but as Kimberley was saying, there are 4 optional criteria that you've got to that you can choose from. You've got to show that you're hitting 2, and 2 of those require you to show out examples from working with product-led digital technology companies. So I guess we'd have to assess which criteria you could hit. But I have had clients who have worked more in that side of things who have succeeded, but yeah, we'd have to take a look at it. Okay, great. well, thank you so much, everyone, for coming. And thank you to the panel for all your insights. Massively appreciated. And I think, I don't know if David and Luba are here, but I think you've got some time now as well to catch up and have coffee.
Well. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Yes.
Yeah. Sure.
Yes.
No, it's fine. It's good. Yeah.
And I tried to ask. I'm actually on exceptional promise. I should have been on
Right.
talent.
Okay. Yeah.
But I didn't know the rules back then, and I applied for promise because I thought it would be